Ja, ibland så får man också improvisera när inte medverkande uppenbarligen är på plats. Då sätter man in någon annan också. Så att det är inte Peter Salin utan det är Anna Forsberg. Och det är inte Thomas Andersson heller utan det är Anna Forsberg.
Ja.
Så som tyvärr då har dessa två herrar fått förhinder. Så då sätter vi in en kvinna istället.
I will do my best.
Mycket bra, tack för det. Det är väl så ungefär som det är i hela livet, att man får improvisera ibland så att man klarar uppgiften. We'll take this in English because we also have some English-speaking people here. Even though we have almost Swedish-speaking, Gabriel, you're doing your best.
Trying.
Yeah, very good. So I think this closing panel, I would like to ask you the first about your impressions of the day and what comes to your mind when you think of today. I start with Carl.
Oh, thank you. So as I said in my talk, it was very nice to have a conference with a focus for patient and patient organization. We are very used to have conferences with other colleagues and talking about our results and how we want to improve healthcare. And it's quite rare that we talk to patient and patient organization. And that's, I think, we should do more, and that's the way to improve healthcare, to work together more closely with the patient. And we also recognize directly that we talked about our national project for DCD, and we talked about the good collaboration we had and why we were successful. But none of the three speakers and none of the project had a patient representative in the organization, and I think that's changing right now.
Good observation. And Anna,
Yes.
what's your top of mind?
Yeah, well, this is my favorite context, actually. I really like to be on a congress with patient focus. So I really enjoyed the day. And I was thinking of a couple of things. And one was the physician from Uppsala talking about cancer in relation to transplantation, and that it is important to come forward as a patient and ask questions about treatments and ask for a second opinion and things like that. And I realized when he was speaking that this is a huge challenge to be a patient and being subjected to care, both as a transplant recipient but also as a person with cancer. And I was immediately thinking, how can we improve these circumstances for the patients? And I was actually thinking about you, Carl, because we are in the Swedish Transplant Society together, and I had this idea, maybe we could make a list of physicians very much with a lot of knowledge about cancer treatment and transplantation, put it on the website of the Swedish Transplant Society. So as a patient in this situation, you could see that these are the physicians in Sweden that perhaps could give a second opinion, because that would make it easier. So that was one of my ideas that we can discuss in the society, because I find it difficult to just sit there with this situation and to pursue on your own as a patient. Yeah, so that was one reflection.
Good proposal.
Yeah.
Gabi?
To me, it was, first of all, collaboration. I think, Sweden's very well renowned for this, and this meeting confirmed again that we work very well together. And the fact that we're with the patients, for me, is given. From last year, ESOT has demonstrated the same this year. Beyond this, I think it's the breadth of developments we have available here that we want to make the transplants more widely available through various initiatives. The DCD is one of them, but also the various innovations we heard from Sandra, we heard from various people, and how to make those transplants last longer. And I think the future is very exciting, and we just need to keep the momentum going in keeping this and implementing some of the initiatives we've heard here. And it's great to have people from various bodies that have some decision power to listen to this and take note of what's coming in the future.
Yes, because as I said in the beginning today, I hope that we can, in this kind of forum, bring Europe to Sweden and Sweden to Europe, and to learn from each other, because I think it's necessary that we do that way. So you are involved in different huge projects at the European or international level. What do you see is in particular important for Sweden to improve? If we can have that self-critical also question, is there something that we have? Well, of course we can learn from each other, but what is the most necessary thing maybe in your profession that you can think of? Carl, do you have something on your mind?
There are always a lot of things to improve. I don't have a special thing on my mind. I'm thinking and talking at the same time. I mean, what I mentioned before was the patient involvement. I think that could be a low-hanging fruit. I think we're already quite good at it, but we have a lot to improve. Other countries struggle with that as well. We could, for example, have in the Swedish Transplantation Society, we don't have a patient representative. We used to have one when we had the value-based healthcare at Karolinska. We actually had a patient representative, which we met with in our board. Of course, you're not used to it. You need to develop that collaboration. What we, for example, do not have in Sweden is a strong, or let's say we could improve the patient organization for liver patients. There is the kidney organization is quite strong, has an impact. The liver organization could need some more representative, and they could argue more with us and tell us what they want, what is good and what is not good, what we could improve. We would appreciate that to get more impact.
I was looking around when you said that,
Yes.
because we have had representatives earlier today from the Hepatitis C organization.
Yes.
And they have changed their name a few years ago. So, but they have some members, and I think they need to also have more contacts with the professionals in this area. So maybe we can make a connection there.
Yes, we would appreciate that. Yes.
So. Have you something on your mind, Anna, about, since you are especially engaged within patient involvement? Yeah. That's really, it's, if you have met Anna before, you can really see that it's true,
Yeah.
because it glows.
Yeah, you are my favorite person.
And patient involvement. I mean, if I have met, I have met some doctors during the years myself,
Yeah.
and if someone had turned to me and be that enthusiastic, I would have really felt much better immediately.
Yeah.
So I guess we all should have had that kind of communication, maybe. But what is your taking home with you from what you have listened here, and comparing also to European level? Do you have something?
Yes, well, I think I want to echo what Carl said. I think there is an area for improvement when it comes to strengthen the position of the patients. I mean, there is still a lot to do. I believe that we can be proud, sort of, in Sweden, that we are very much a role model when it comes to person-centered care, because we have a strong tradition now working in that field. My dream is that the patient is a valid partner in the healthcare team all the time. And also what we discussed in the other session, that I would like us to move from one size fits all, which is very much the approach from the healthcare system, to my size fits me. And to tease out for every patient what is your size and what will help you. And I discussed during the break, I have this dream, which I have launched already within ESOT, where I also work, to develop a European standard for patient education based on your needs, not what we think that you should learn about, but your needs. And then we adapt to our sort of what we think that, or at least we want to tell you. And I think that would be huge progress, a Swedish standard and a European standard for patient education. And I will be happy to contribute to that, because there are too much information. Most of it is not evidence-based at all, hardly common sense, actually. And yeah, very weird advice that we sometimes give. So I think that could make a huge change. And I'm very much of a doer. So that's sort of a promise from me today, that I will try to make this be a reality with the support from this fantastic man. Yeah.
And the Swedish Transplant Society. Yeah. A good combination. Since we have patient representatives here today from both Sweden, Norway and Denmark, could we increase the numbers, you think, Gabriel, to the ESOT patient initiative, and really to create something more, how to say, well, a more common community for patients and their, I mean, to really gain from your knowledge and education possibilities and so on, because I think the patient organizations in our countries are not that big. No. So, except for, as you said, Carl, from the Kidney Association. But the Kidney Association in Sweden is twice as much, or many more times, have more members than fibrosis or lung and heart, and so on. So how can we help people to really get the advantages of ESOT?
I think strengths and evolution comes from collaboration, and we can only do this together. It's very clear for me, and I think we've demonstrated this in ESOT at Athens Congress. I think it's been innovative in that way, that we really focused on patient a lot, and the journey and the innovation and what it means for the patient. And I think now we have the ability to bring things together, both in terms of education of professionals as well as the patients. It's not just about the patients, and allowing us to understand each other's needs, because what we as clinicians believe are outcomes may not best outcomes may not necessarily what patient wants, and we need to bring those together. There is an European transplantation organization that's been funded together with ESOT support about 2 years ago. We wrote the chart, but actually now we need to put that into practice, because Carl is right. There will be different patient group representing and their own interests and their own constituencies' interests. But I think globally, everyone has the same aim, a better quality and a longer quality of life. And I think now we need to implement that in practice. So one of the tasks for one of the new councillors of ESOT will be then to reshape the EDPO and create this a charter of how we engage with the patients to make their participation into ESOT activities and plans and projects a meaningful one. And I'll go one sitting next to me here. So that there are many advantages there, and I think this can only work if people engage and we collaborate. Otherwise, we'll just end up with the same problem. And for me, it's also about the continuum of care. It's not necessarily, transplant, a visit, and whatever happens next. It's what happens in between that we can actually map. And we need to change the concept of actually putting patients firmly in charge of their care with the support of the physician. I know it's a very radical change. We are not in charge of patients' care. They are in charge of their destiny, and they do come to us occasionally, in the clinics. And I think that needs to change, and the availability of a lot of technology and what we can do now allows us to have that continuum of care very clearly mapped. So we maximize the outcomes and achieve the outcomes we want. But for that, we need the input of the patients, patient-reported outcomes, and so on. So it's a big project, but I'm sure we can deliver it.
Thank you. And actually, because I know there has not been time for questions before, but since you have these three excellent experts on stage, is there any questions that you would like to raise according to what you have seen or heard today, and if there is something you wonder about within the transplantation area? So you have the opportunity right now. You're all happy? It was the good cake, for the coffee that just, yeah.
I'm sure there are questions.
I can take another one while you're thinking. Since we have our representative from the European Council, it also brings to mind that we need to be advocates. We need to raise opinion and really to make, better job when it comes to policy making, to increase our influence about patient involvement and also all around this transplantation area in healthcare, I guess. It's not visible enough, that's my experience. And 2 days ago, when we had the conference on person-centered care, we also had the presence digitally by the president of IAPO, International Alliance of Patient Organizations, who attended the UN meeting last week, and really have, a position that creates also a voice for patients globally. And I have found out during my years at the European and international level, in my small part, that transplanted patients or even professionals are not visible at that arena. Am I right? Is it a provocative question? I mean, to create policy, it's necessary also to be visible and attend all these important meetings and be involved in policy making. I mean, for example, when we talked also about the need of registries for follow-up transplanted patients, it will not be done by itself. Political decisions are needed. So how do we create that environment so we can be visible together then? Any ideas?
If I may?
Yeah.
When I listened to the presentations today, I realized that there are some good policies, some good guidelines in Europe, and I'm sorry to say that I wasn't aware of all of them that was presented. But I think that's the first step, sort of, to identify all the existing guidelines and to bring them into each country, and in this case to Sweden. And again, I was thinking about the Swedish Transplant Society, that we need to have an awareness, increase our own awareness of the European guidelines and discuss it in Sweden. How can we disseminate them here? Because we don't need to invent the wheel every time, and there are a lot of good efforts already done. So I think that's one step forward, to raise awareness of what is already there and to take the responsibility to disseminate into our own country and
Yeah.
our own transplant organization. Yeah.
I think you're right, Anna. I think it's very interesting how the professional organization, be it national or international level, have changed. And certainly we had to make that cognitive change because we're moving from being a professional organization that promotes science, education, and outcomes to actually being a political lobbyist. And now we realize that the only way to change policy is actually be involved from the beginning. And we had some interesting conversation, a very fruitful conversation with Mirella this morning about the same mind, because we are thinking the same way. So it's what we had in Athens, 1 + 1 is 3, because it's not about patient, professional, it's about the triangle, the triangle between professional patients and the system, i.e. the lawmakers, politicians, because together we can do this. I mean, in Garstein last year, transplant was not visible. They're talking about everything else, all organ failures. And at the end of every organ failure, there's a transplant. So that visibility needs to be created, and we can only do it together. And it's beginning to change. I think it's interesting that we're building a great relationship, particularly in Europe, between the lawmakers, the European Commission, and the professional organizations. We're becoming the go-to people. And I think if you filter that at the national level, that's exactly where it should be. So if the politicians or the lawmakers in Sweden or the organization need to go to somewhere, they need to go to the Swedish Transplantation Society, because they will know who are the representatives that can provide the best advice in the country, because that's the professionals that they represent. So lots of work to do.
Because it's not very easy to change the laws. We have our 2 representatives from MOD, Mera Organdonation, who has really been working with the transformation of Swedish legislation and many others. And I think it's not about always changing, in that way, but also to create awareness. So I turn to Carl now and ask a very direct question. How do you make yourself visible from your society to the policymakers?
Very good question.
You always get the easy question.
Yeah, it seems like that. Not very much, I think. On the other hand, we must say that we have been quite successful in Sweden. We have a transplantation law which just recently has been changed, and many have been involved there. We have the advantage in Sweden that we are a small country, and we can collaborate. We have representatives from the National Board of Health and Welfare here, and you mentioned MOD. And it's easier to change policies in Sweden. We have a lot of trust in healthcare in Sweden. We work well together. I don't work so much with creating awareness for the Transplantation Society or transplantation, but I think there are people and organizations who are better at that. So we should collaborate with them.
Well, from Focus Patient side, we really hope that this will continue and that we can see some improvement the coming year, because I do think that we need each other in this work. And I'm so happy to say that Helena and others here from the National Board of Welfare, that you are really working hard also with the donation week, which is coming soon, and that Focus Patient will be involved in that work. Very grateful for that. But we all need to create awareness so that more people also know what's going on. And if you have visited our exhibitors today also and have talked to them, you can see a great improvement in treatments and renewed organs, and there are a lot of things going on, and we need to learn all about that, so we can also say that also in our part of healthcare, something is happening, and can tell people more about also the whole journey. I think we've had as almost a theme today also that coming from the start of the donation process to actually live your life and to learn and to have more knowledge is also a tool to create awareness and also to affect policymakers and other stakeholders in society. Do you have any questions?
No.
You have all the answers.
I do.
No. I don't have all the answers.
Is there a representative from a liver patient organization? No.
I think they have left.
They have left.
Yeah. Unfortunately.
Yep.
Yeah, but they were here earlier today, so I will see that you will be in touch. With that said, I think we can have a close-up and say that from Focus Patient, we are very grateful to all of you who have been attending today, to all the good speakers during the day, and to our sponsors, to the people who have really supported us through our journey with creating this conference. So let's continue the good work and talk to more people also about the need, all the way from organ donation or donation in itself as a good way to really make people live and also support each other on this life journey. Thank you so much for today.
And I think the thanks need to go to Penilla for her dedication and drive. This is amazing 3-day marathon that she's organized. Not the first time, the second time. And I think she deserves a big round of applause for everything she's done.
Yeah.